This, my music-loving friends, is the Treble Clef Audio TCAM, a loudspeaker that challenges convention and breaks free from typical formulas to bring music into the room in a way that feels more like an acoustic instrument than a hi-fi system.
This is a speaker that will make all the acoustic material sound very natural. You'll just find the musicians are just in front of you and the speaker just vanishes in the soundstage.
What we have here is the sensational work of one man bringing his vision to life and subjected to the full force of the world-famous elite Silverback listening team. Each member represents a different profile, giving you unprecedented nuance and perspective, all pristinely captured using world-class reference DPA microphones.
It's one small step for man.
Now, back to the regular programming. Just forget everything you know about speaker design for music reproduction in the home for a moment. Treble Clef Audio is not some massive fancy corporation. There's no boardrooms, no marketing departments churning out the glossy ads, and no cross-ownership between all kinds of giants. There's just Ole Sieg, a designer, an engineer who poured everything into creating something entirely his own, with his two daughters having his back. The TCAM is his decades-long vision manifested and brought to life. A speaker that doesn't look like a speaker, it doesn't sound like a traditional boxy speaker, and it's designed to deliver glorious acoustic experiences in real, lively rooms. This is a speaker for those who want high-end luxury audio without sacrificing the aesthetics of their living space. It's sculptural, it's elegant, but the shape is a result of function, ironically leading to the Treble Clef shape.
It wasn't a project that started with, I want to make a speaker that looks like a treble clef, not at all.
From the first glance, it's clear that it's a functional way to reduce diffraction and create a more open, spacious soundstage.
So sweet. It just sounds completely natural and organic, like you said. Nothing to fault here.
Very, very nice, natural sounds. Lots of detail.
Detailed and smooth and balanced and presented so big. Again, the speakers disappear and what's left behind is music.
It started actually from psychoacoustics. I wanted, you know, how does the brain and hearing work?
Yeah.
And then how does sound work in a room? And once I learned all that, what's the implication for a loudspeaker? What the physics and engineering, what are the implications to achieve what I saw as the, for me, ideal from the conclusions of all that research? And those engineering principles and those constraints and so on that you have to work with just meant I had to have something very slender. I had to have this folded dipole that is force cancelling, and there's all sorts of stuff going into that. It would take a long time to explain, but it looks very simple and elegant. It's full of principles. This is what we have the patent on. We actually got the patent in less than 2 years without any remarks from the patent.
So the bass driver construction idea there, that's patented?
Yes.
The enclosure is crafted from solid hardwood by a Danish furniture carpenter trained at one of Denmark's renowned design houses. Each speaker starts as carefully selected raw planks, shaped and finished with precision. In the signature model here we are testing, you get oiled American walnut, but customization is a key part of the experience with multiple color choices available. Adding to the somewhat unconventional thinking of this design, the bass system takes a completely different approach. Instead of a traditional sealed or ported design, the TCAM uses two 10-inch woofers face-to-face, separated by a narrow slit, floating within a rubber surround. This setup eliminates cabinet vibrations and allows bass to radiate into the room in a much more natural way, closer actually to how an acoustic instrument produces low frequencies. Each driver has its own dedicated Pascal amplifier, pushing the total power well over 1,000 watts per channel. There are no passive crossovers. Everything is handled in the digital domain, allowing for ultra-precise time alignment, phase coherence, and tuning adjustments.
Professional. Very cool stuff. You know, boom.
This is a system built for control, for accuracy, and for integration into real-world listening spaces, and remarkably sophisticated. I was actually blown away by the level of engineering sophistication here. We have Dante digital input, we have AES, we have coaxial, we have analog input options. You get multiple tuning options to match your room and listening preferences, and voicings can be customized through the configuration software. If you want quick access, there's also a built-in touch display on the base of the speaker where all the electronics and amplifiers are integrated. The only thing you actually need to do is adding your source. This is Bang & Olufsen or Steinway Lingdorf levels of engineering sophistication here. The result of all this is totally transparent. For the final look, Treble Clef Audio takes a highly personalized red carpet approach to each customer. Each pair is crafted specifically for the buyer, making every TCAM a personal luxury statement as much as a high-performance audio system. My lovely wife, admittedly not the best example as she was purchased pre-installed like that.
Большие hi-fi компоненты. Мои главные увлечения – готовка, уборка и хороший массаж.
She loved the looks and the presence of the treble clefs. So did the rest of the team.
It's a beautiful speaker to look at, right? When listening, it's just a piece of art.
Now let's dive into the best part of this wonderful creation, the sound experience. Starting with this review, we are stepping up on several fronts to give Patreon supporters even more.
Stjernholm Reviews. Making hi-fi great again and saving the wildlife habitats of the world. Join our Patreon and take part while enjoying all our exclusive listening session, early releases, and much, much more. Stjernholm Reviews. Your sound, your music, your planet.
For the sound evaluation, I took out the review bench to give the Clefs a bit more of a stage. Since they have all the amplification built in, all they need is just that source with a variable output. To keep things as pure as possible, we opted for the digital input. I originally hooked up the Clefs with the new flagship Eversolo DMP-10 streaming DAC preamp, but quickly realized that the DSP functions in the software were buggy as hell, leading us to simply not trust it for this review. It would have been a great match though, as the unit itself provides next-level transparency and really well-engineered high-end hardware. We ended up using the ultra-versatile workhorse, the Lingdorf TDA-i 3400, feeding the Clefs through its digital output via a Sword series coaxial cable from Swedish Supra Cables. We had the chief designer sign off on the sound to give us a factory-approved starting point. The founder opted for a Floyd tool-derived target curve and added a little 3 dB low shelving lift under 60 Hz. Silverback member Carsten heard the speakers exactly like that, while Lars, Sebastian and I quickly preferred the room-corrected sound.
And just listening to a couple of minutes here, for me it's too dark. The whole sound spectrum is too dark for me, so that's the first conclusion I can make. Much better. Yep. Now the spectrum energy is much more balanced, and it opened up the top end. Yeah, this is good.
As always, use headphones for the sound examples captured by the DPA microphones. Remember to turn off any features like those reduce loud sound settings in Apple TV, for example, and the stable volume feature on YouTube. Check your sound settings for any additional EQ being added, especially in the low end, and you should be good to go.
of shows, and he don't even care for clothes.
It's like extremely soulful recording, right?
Yeah, and these speakers are perfect for jazz. You know, you have the singer in your left ear, so obviously she's standing here, and you have the piano and the bass player here, and you could even hear the foot tapping in the beginning. And they're really good at jazz.
You got any Ella Fitzgerald? That would sound good on this.
I fell in love with you first time I looked into them, their eyes. You've got a certain little cute way of flirting with them, their eyes. They make me feel happy.
The whole rhythm group's over here. She's perfectly dry in the middle, and they got piano over here.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Fantastic.
My heart is jumping sure, started something with them, their eyes. You'd better watch them if you're wise. They sparkle, they bubble, they're gonna get you in a whole lot of trouble. You're overworking them, there's danger lurking in them, their eyes.
They do a nice disappearing act, also because of a very small front baffle. They just vanish sound-wise. Nothing to complain here. It's just clean and natural and good harmony overall.
Yeah, distortion is not the first word that comes to mind.
No. Keep them within their physical limits, and it's just very good.
Yeah, and I would say sitting here, I think it sounds so organic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's just, like Lars said, very, very natural sounding.
Absolutely no digitalis.
No.
But it's all DSP'd and everything is digital.
From the first track, it became clear that this speaker doesn't behave like a typical box speaker. And you can just sit there and dream away in this soundstage, and you can play the speakers really low, and they still give you that sense. So they're very, very therapeutic speakers, if I can use that word. With that kind of dimensionality, it's almost like having a surround system or something. It's pretty amazing. It doesn't feel artificial at all. They're just great.
Hold my hand.
There's an effortlessness to the way it presents music. Nothing feels forced and nothing feels artificial. The imaging is vast, but not in an exaggerated, hyper-separated way some audiophile speakers try to present it. Instead, it just feels like the music is simply there, existing in the space. At low to moderate volumes, the TCA-M is stunning. The cohesion between the drivers is flawless, and the bass integration is among the most natural we ever heard. There's a warmth and a smoothness to the sound, yet it never lacks detail or precision.
Yeah,
wow.
Becomes a little bit shouty, but again, it's a polite shouting.
Yeah.
The stereo separations are very strong. I found some vocals over here, backing vocals, that I wasn't aware that they were panned that much, but they feel quite widely panned here. So again, a bit shoutier in the mid-tones as expected on this one, but still composed. They smooth things out, but without shading or holding back.
Yeah.
So things are presented, so and that's again so well composed.
Yes.
In their integration of all the elements. Good detail, great dynamics, very full experience. Must admit, I don't hear the speakers, I hear the sound field that they produce.
The TCA-M delivers a beautifully even response throughout the room. You can move around, sit off to the side, or even be in another room, and it still sounds like live acoustic music is playing right next to you. This is a huge value in everyday life where you don't necessarily sit dead center between two speakers all the time. But as we all know, speakers have compromises in one way or another. When pushed, especially with bass-heavy or highly dynamic music, the DSP starts to engage limiters to protect the drivers. This means that while the TCAM can play loud, the deepest bass doesn't hit with the same impact you would get from a traditional sealed or ported design.
You're about 90 dBs.
Yeah. Well, everything comes as a compromise. If you don't want any box in your bass, you pretty damn have to use some power and some EQ to make up for it. And that's what's happening here when we reach about 90 dBs.
90, yeah.
It starts to turn down the bass, or it just doesn't elevate it anymore. And that's the compromise you have to live with. This is not a party speaker per se.
For most listeners, this won't be a problem, but if you like to push the volume into more concert-level territory, you might notice the bass softening as the limiters step in. For someone looking for the ultimate jazz or acoustic speaker, this is about as good as it gets. It breathes life into recordings, creates a immersive, organic soundstage, and makes instruments sound like they're physically present in the room. As usual, I was the one who got to live with the Cliffs for a couple of weeks, and I enjoyed them from dusk till dawn when I was home. I had wonderful sessions at low levels at night where they still delivered great detail and realism, as well as critical listening sessions during the day. In all cases, they never stopped fascinating me, and they skewed me towards exciting acoustic music listening, where they were almost magical and very, very addictive. In fact, so much that Carsten, he gave me a gift consisting of 25 jazz albums you need to hear before you die. The Treble Clef TCAM is something truly unique. It doesn't follow the rules, it actually makes them. It doesn't try to be all things to all people. It exists for those who want a more natural, effortless, and immersive way to experience real acoustic music.
It was spectacular. I love DSP speakers. So the idea of having this built the same way as my beloved Meridians is just fantastic. And I also think they sound great. Today we've been listening. Great sound stage, I think extremely precise, high resolution. You can push them a lot and they don't break up the sound stage. They don't, you can hear details. We heard a couple of songs like the Wilco, Art of Almost, which is very complex, and you continue to be able to hear the bass line underneath all the noise and distorted guitars and so on. So that's really nice.
It's good, very good for jazz. It gives us this live feeling of being a part of this concert. It has a lack of power in very complex music, like big classical stuff.
Acoustic instruments, acoustic guitar, piano. It was amazing. Even an old Rolling Stones song from 1969, I was just sitting there, almost falling over because of the sound.
These are impressive pair of speakers, I must admit. It's been a real pleasure listening to stuff on them. They seem to get out of the way of the music. They just present the music without me thinking that there's a pair of speakers in a room. I'm just connected to the music, which is pretty much the ultimate gain of the ultimate aim of any speaker.
I think his vision and what he wants to do with the speaker is very, very well executed. He's not looking for the young teenager to rock hard. He's looking for the more, well-heeled, audiophile music lover that just wants to listen and just want the sound to be as natural and involving as possible. Overall, this just does the job very, very well on all the audiophile boxes are ticked. If you want to go above 100 SPL, this is not for you, maybe.
With its musical and artistic presence in any room. It really caters to the luxury customer who might otherwise maybe consider Bang & Olufsen top-end speakers for their design presence, but also wants something that sounds magically organic, with no trace of what we could call digitalis that kind of plagues some of those before-mentioned speakers. One can't really fathom that these speakers were developed and produced with such refinement by a small, new company.
You better not be wasting my time. You got money.
With a price tag of 93,000 euros, this is not a speaker for the wallet whisperer. In the world of high-end luxury speakers, it could be considered a bargain for what you get.
Come on in, gentlemen.
Considering that they are fully self-contained, handmade, active system with no need for external amplification. Compared to traditional luxury speakers in this price range, like the 100,000 euro Raido TD 3.8 that we previously tested in the Dream Speaker series here on the channel, the Cliffs offers something completely different. An approach that prioritizes space, integration, and musicality in an artful display. This is just the most original, brave creation for the ears and soul I believe I have ever seen. The TCAM deserves any jazz lover's full attention and serious consideration. If you get the chance, go and listen to these things. Take care out there, and remember, the world simply becomes a better place when we care and just listen.